They say when a Jinn falls in love with a human, it consumes them entirely. But what this one did to Aya was beyond terrifying. This story is about a girl named Aya who found herself ensnared in the clutches of a Jinn's obsessive love, and her story begins like this. My name is Aya. I'm 20 years old now, but everything began about 3 years ago. It was just another ordinary night, or so I thought. As usual, I was helping my mom wash clothes in the bathroom. We were chatting and joking around while she worked. But eventually, she finished her part and said, "I'm heading to bed now, I'm too tired." I nodded and told her I'd finish up. That's when I made my first mistake. I turned on some music while I stayed behind to finish the laundry, thinking it would keep me entertained. But as I stood there, something strange happened. I felt a sudden, eerie sensation, like something brushing against my hair. My heart skipped a beat as panic set in. I swatted at my head with my hands, convinced it was a spider or maybe a cockroach, creatures I absolutely can't stand. But when I checked my hair, there was nothing there. I let out a shaky breath, trying to calm myself. It's probably nothing, I told myself, brushing it off as my imagination. I went back to washing the clothes, the music still playing in the background. And then it happened again. This time the sensation was stronger. I froze, my hands trembling as I reached up to touch the spot where I felt something. What I felt made my blood run cold. It wasn't a spider. It wasn't a cockroach. It was a hand. I screamed. The sound echoed through the house. My vision blurred, my body shaking uncontrollably. Before I could make sense of what was happening, darkness swallowed me whole. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on my bed, my mother hovering over me with a worried look on her face. The scent of perfume filled the air, and I realized she was spraying me with it, trying to wake me up. "What happened?" I mumbled, my voice weak and unsteady. She looked at me, her face etched with fear she was trying hard to hide. "I don't know, sweetheart. I was asleep when I heard you scream. I ran to the bathroom and found you passed out on the floor." Her words sent a chill down my spine. The memory of that hand flashed in my mind, and I bolted upright, my body trembling. I threw myself into her arms, clinging to her like a child seeking protection. "What's wrong, Aya?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Through my tears and fear, I told her everything. My mother listened intently, her expression growing more tense with every word. Though she tried to reassure me, her face betrayed her true feelings. She was just as scared as I was. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said softly, stroking my hair. "Maybe it was just your imagination. Don't think too much about it." But her eyes told a different story. She didn't believe her own words, and neither did I. Still, I had no choice but to let it go, for now. The day after that terrifying experience passed uneventfully, and I almost convinced myself it had all been in my head. By nighttime, I had completely pushed the incident out of my mind until it came back to haunt me. It happened when I was taking a shower in the bathroom. As the warm water cascaded over me, I felt it again, that same hand brushing through my hair. My throat tightened, and I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Panic took over, but I tried to stay calm. I couldn't let whatever this was escalate further. I knew my parents were awake and sitting together outside, so I came up with a desperate plan. The water we used for showering was stored in a plastic container that weighed about 2 kilograms. I thought, if I knock it over, the sound will be loud enough to get their attention. Pretending it was an accident, I tipped the container over, and it crashed against the tile floor with a sharp, echoing bang. For a brief moment, the hand pulling at my hair stopped. Relief washed over me as I waited for my parents to rush in. But no one came. I called out to them, my voice shaking, but there was no response. And then, in the silence that followed, the lights went out. The room was plunged into darkness, and I was immediately hit by an overwhelming wave of heat. It was suffocating, like standing too close to an open furnace. I felt something or someone touch my face, then slide down to my neck. The touch was cold yet invasive, sending chills down my spine. I screamed, banging on the bathroom door, desperately trying to get it to open, but it wouldn't budge. My fist pounded against the wood, my voice raw with terror, but the silence outside was unbroken. No one came to my rescue. The panic and fear were too much, and I blacked out again. When I woke up, I wasn't in the bathroom. I was in my bedroom, lying on my bed. Unlike last time, my mother wasn't there, which confused me. Who brought me here? I wondered, my heart pounding. That's when I heard it. A voice, calm but unnervingly close.
"I brought you here,"
it said. I froze. The voice was right beside me, yet when I looked, no one was there. My eyes darted around the room, but it was empty. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The mattress next to me was compressed, as if someone was sitting on it. With trembling hands, I turned to look, and for a moment my heart stopped. There, sitting on my bed, was no one. But the indentation on the mattress was unmistakable. Whatever or whoever it was right beside me. "Mom!" I shouted in terror, hoping she would hear me. But the voice came again, calm yet menacing.
"Don't bother. No one can hear you. You're in my world now, the world of the Jinn."
I stammered, my voice weak. "But this is my room. This is my house." The voice chuckled softly, sending a shiver down my spine.
"Then go ahead. Open the door and look outside,"
it said. I hesitated but couldn't resist. Slowly, I got up and opened the door, praying that I'd see my familiar hallway. Instead, I was met with complete darkness. Pitch black, endless and suffocating. A foul stench hit me like a wave, making me gag. In the darkness stood figures, black cats and dogs with glowing eyes, staring at me with an unsettling intensity. Their gaze felt hateful, as if they resented my very presence.
"Don't be afraid,"
the voice said behind me.
"They're my family."
I forced myself to turn back toward the voice, trembling. My breath caught in my throat as I saw him for the first time. Sitting on the edge of my bed was a young man, impossibly beautiful. His skin was pale, almost luminous, and his long black hair cascaded over his shoulders. His piercing eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The young man finally spoke, his voice calm yet unnervingly intense.
"My name is Ashiq. I'm one of the Jinn that lives in bathrooms. From the moment I saw you, I was captivated by you. I've been watching you ever since, but I had no way to reach you. Until the night you played music in the bathroom and didn't seek protection from us. That gave me the power to enter your life."
Chills ran down my spine as he continued, his words heavy with dark intent.
"I want you,"
he said.
"And I will have you."
I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. What do you mean? You're a Jinn and I'm human. How is that even possible?" He smiled, a haunting expression that made my stomach churn.
"It happens more often than you think,"
he replied.
"I'll marry you. Don't worry. I won't let you bear my child. That would kill you, and I don't want that. At least, not yet."
Before I could process what he was saying, he began moving toward me. His once beautiful features twisted into something horrific. His eyes turned milky white, and his skin began to peel away, revealing a grotesque, rotting face underneath. It was as if he had been wearing a mask all along, and now the truth was coming to the surface. I screamed as loud as I could, but he screamed back, an unearthly sound that shook me to my core. His skin continued to fall away piece by piece, until he was nothing more than a skeletal figure. And then, as suddenly as it had started, he collapsed to the ground in a lifeless heap. The room spun, and everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my own world, lying just outside the bathroom. My father was sitting beside me, reciting verses from the Quran. Relief flooded through me as I realized where I was, and I threw my arms around him, sobbing. I told him everything about Akif, the hand, the black cats and dogs, and what had just happened. My father thanked God and held me tightly. "You'll sleep in our room tonight," he said firmly, trying to reassure me. That night, I slept with them, feeling a small sense of safety for the first time in days. But my relief was short-lived. As soon as I drifted into sleep, I found myself back in my room. It wasn't real. I knew I was dreaming, but it felt all too vivid. I got out of bed and walked toward the door, hoping, praying that I was wrong about what was happening. I opened the door and my heart sank. The hallway was gone, replaced by a suffocating darkness. The foul stench from before hit me again, and in the doorway stood the black cats and dogs, their glowing eyes fixed on me. One of the cats suddenly began to grow, its body twisting and stretching until it was taller than me. It let out a deafening screech, its voice distorted and filled with rage.
"You killed my son!"
it roared. Before I could react, it transformed into a woman, a horrifying figure with jet-black skin and long white hair. Her eyes burned with fury as she grabbed me and pinned me to the bed. "You'll pay for what you've done!" she snarled. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. She pulled out a whip and began striking me over and over again. The pain was excruciating, and I could feel every lash as if it were real.
"I'll torture you first,"
she hissed,
"and then I'll kill you."
I was sure I was going to die. The agony was unbearable, and I couldn't even beg for mercy. Just when I thought it was over, she let out a piercing scream and vanished into thin air. I woke up gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat. My father was beside me, reciting Quran once again. I clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably. My mother joined us, her face pale as she hugged me tightly. But when they saw my body, their expressions turned to horror. My skin was covered in marks, angry red welts from the whip. It had all happened while I was asleep, but the evidence was real. When I told my father everything, he decided to take me to a sheikh. The sheikh listened carefully to my story, his face grave. After a long pause, he said, "This isn't just possession. The Jinn want revenge, and they're willing to kill you to get it. If you don't protect yourself with daily prayers and invocations, you may not survive the next attack." From that day forward, I've made it a point to never miss my daily protective prayers. It's been over 3 years, and by God's grace, nothing like that has happened again. And that brings us to the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed it and that it sent chills down your spine. If you did, don't forget to like the video and show your support by subscribing to the channel. And hey, don't keep the scare to yourself. Share this story with your friends so they can experience it too. Your support helps us bring you more terrifying tales like this one. Thank you for sticking around till the end. I'm Phobia, and I'll see you in the next story.